Good evening, friends, and welcome to Red Moon Roleplaying. Me and Craig being super excited about something that we have been very, very quiet about for a long time now, waiting for this big reveal. We are today going to have our session 0 of Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition, and we are going to be led today by no one less than Martin Ericsson. Hello, how are you today?
Hello, blood and souls, and hi. It is a great pleasure being here. I've been waiting a long time for this, guys.
We too. We have been so excited, sort of holding on. When did we actually start talking about this?
This is an occupational hazard in the games industry. But yes, now the cat is out of the box, so let's play with it.
Indeed. So, Martin, would you tell us a bit about yourself, what you do, and how you're related to all this? And
when I came aboard White Wolf after having worked with CCP, I started my professional engagement with White Wolf products as a senior content designer for the World of Darkness MMO. So I lived in Atlanta for the last fatal year of that project. And it was one of these things that was really, really hard to let go. So when I heard that Paradox was interested in purchasing the IP, I went up to the office and met my old friend Fredrik Bester for the first time in many, many years. We started out playing some role-playing games back in Umeå in the 90s. And basically I pitched him the idea that Paradox should just buy White Wolf and make it the grand transmedia story that was always destined to be. And I was hired as Lead Storyteller, which is my own title that I invented because I thought it was appropriate. I guess it would be called creative director in a more traditional industry. But I do think it's about it. My job is like running a series of chronicles made by 20 different companies and teams, all who all want to work within the umbrella of the World of Darkness and Vampire the Masquerade. So I've been overseeing the production and design of Vampire 5th edition, and bringing one of my absolute favorite games from my teens into the 21st century. So that is my connection to this. Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition, in a lot of ways, is mine and Karim's love letter to our discussions in the mid-90s in Umeå when we played Vampire the Masquerade. Actually, my first encounter with the game was through Cult, of all things. And I think observant people can see some bits of flavor from that other great modern horror role-playing game in 5th edition, if they squint a little bit. So I ran the pre-made adventure Fallen Angels, and instead of letting them turn into the Nosferatu from the cult mythology, I took the clans and concepts and world building from Vampire the Masquerade and merged it with that story, which then continued on to become a much longer extended campaign. And from there it was a natural progression into creating vampire LARPs and similar things for a number of years. So I'm an old school World of Darkness fan in that sense.
That's good, because there's so much lore and everything to draw from. So the more it can be a bit overwhelming. So it's good to have someone sort of behind the wheel that really, really knows the stuff.
I think this is very much a collaborative effort. I mean, I could never have a complete command of all the lore. Not the way that, for instance, Matthew Dawkins and, the people at Onyx Path and several other of our collaborators that we work with do. And you are right that Vampire the Masquerade and World of Darkness is a sprawling explanation of our world. It's a deep and dark and menacing story about the forces that could be behind the scenes in our everyday life. But there is so much information that it's humanly impossible for any one person to do it. And one of our sort of ideas behind Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition is to go back to some of the original core concepts and recapture that feeling of danger and uncertainty that was there in the very first editions. So we're trying to make a book that is easy to jump into, even if you are a complete noob to the World of Darkness. And that is also why some of the setting changes have been made to make it so that you won't be at a disadvantage, even if you're a first-time player. So this has been very much in focus for us.
To make it a bit more available for new players. And
yes.
yeah.
Because, I mean, it did draw in an entirely new scene of players into role-playing back in the 90s. It was so vastly different from anything else that was being published at the time. I think Cult and World of Darkness, in that case, I mean in Sweden and America respectively, opened the way for a whole lot of players who were more interested in the dramatics than the mathematics, and that had maybe a more social way of playing, and then the connection between Vampire the Masquerade and nightlife and club life and so on also brought on board, I think, more women and people of unusual subcultural groups than that's normally played role-playing games. And we do hope to do a kind of a similar thing. We've always been the sort of the dark and socially more complex alternative to D&D. It's kind of the flip side, where D&D is an adventure game. I see Vampire the Masquerade as maybe a dark soap opera or a blood opera or a dark thriller. It's more about relationships than about quests.
And that's kind of fitting nicely into the themes that we want to draw into in our podcast. So it feels like a fantastic fit, and we were very excited to hear that you're as excited as we are to do this together.
I mean, it's when trying to find people who would be the most fun to play V5 with. I mean, the actual play scene is big these days, and it's amazing to see Geek and Sundry react so nicely, and the LA by Night Chronicle is fantastic. But there's also something in the style of Red Moon that I've sort of gelled with instantly. It's like, these guys play role-playing games quite similarly to the way I do. So it really felt like a natural fit. So it's good that we got the conversation going and that we're finally here on the cusp of a new night. In this story, we will approach the World of Darkness and the world of Vampire from another direction. We will not start as vampires. Rather, we will look at a recent development within the World of Darkness, which is threatening the existence of the kindred from the inside. Yes, we will try to understand the Second Inquisition from the ground up. And I found that one of the amazing things about your proposal of a campaign is to play agents of the Second Inquisition and show that it's not a simple thing. It's not a black and white thing, and these are human beings in London in the 21st century, and how they react to or encounter the World of Darkness for the first time. So that is, I instantly latched onto the possibility of running some Inquisition style gaming, because that is a big development in V5, that we're returning to a time where the Masquerade is fraying, and certain people in power in the intelligence agencies of the world are starting to suspect something. And the vampire, I think, is at its most fascinating when it's both hunted and hunter at the same time. So, and in this, we harken back to some of my own favorite vampire media. So I want to give shout-outs to Ultraviolet, a BBC TV series from 1998 by Joe Ahamy, I think his name is, starring Idris Elba in one of his first roles. And it is quite excellent if you haven't checked it out. And, of course, the game that made us hire Kenneth Haidt, who has done brilliant work as developer and main designer of Vampire the 5th edition, Night's Black Agents. So the story of the Second Inquisition, it's not accidental that it is there and that it has the tone it has. That is all Kenneth all the time. And I'm also excited to bring in some tidbits into this campaign from an upcoming product, which is tentatively called The Fall of London, which is currently being developed by Matthew Dawkins. So shoutouts to him and his team as well, because I'm going to steal and crib bits from all of these great works.
Wonderful, because I've very much been keen to know some of the stuff going on in London, especially from Matthew Dawkins' perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he is a fantastic man to have on board. So, cool. How about you guys? What's your relationship to Vampire the Masquerade?
The first time I sort of got in touch was during secondary school, where a few kids were playing role-playing games. I never quite got into the group because they were kind of closed in a way. But then we had this amazing librarian in the school library, and he insisted on, well, there is 1 hour a week where the students get to choose an activity that they want to do. Why shouldn't we have a role-playing activity for those who want to try role-playing games? And that was just so great for me, because they gave me it gave me the opportunity to try things out. And one of the things that were arranged through the school was a LARP, actually, at the school and then at another place, where we got to play live action based on Vampire the Masquerade, and we familiarized ourselves with the sort of different kinds of vampires, and just really basic, trying to get people in to see how it would be to do role-playing and live action role-playing. And I just remember being so involved and loving it to bits. But since then, it's kind of drifted over more towards other forms of role-playing games, more towards high fantasy and fantasy stuff and sci-fi, until when we started with Red Moon role-playing and I first got into real sort of modern-day era cult role-playing games, and then leading into this. So hearing all the names of the clans and things like that, that's like really nostalgic to me, because it was from an era that's almost been sort of, it's past, it's been lying dormant for all this time, and now it's going to be reawakened.
And you are very much a part of that reawakening, man. So that is, it's great. Yeah, I mean, for me it's a bit of the same thing. I mean, after the late 90s, I drifted away from Vampire and the Well of Darkness too, mostly because I started working for television and all those sorts of things. I carried with me a lot of the ideas. But then, as, you know, the MMO started up and all that, and when we got this chance to relaunch it, I think that it's a lot of people like you who are the target audience. It's like, had a connection to it way back when, and now it's back in a format that is more adapted to sort of our slightly more grown up version of it, if you will. So yeah, we call you lapsed fans. It's our marketing speak for that group, and it's actually our primary category, because it's more than 3-4 million people have been touched by Vampire the Masquerade during the 90s.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people it had a profound impact. And even if it drifted away from it, there is something to reawaken there again.
Yeah, well, in my case, I think it was a good example of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, massive game in my life when I was 18, 19 years old, maybe 20. Just everything about it was great. I didn't care that it was a bit buggy. I didn't care that the last hour or so is just suddenly kill everyone. I didn't realize at the time that that's not quite how the game's supposed to be. I was like, oh, okay, at the end, all vampires become superhuman killing machines. But it was just great. And then I didn't get to really roleplay a lot when I was younger, unfortunately. I loved roleplaying video games. I did a bit of online stuff, but I never really could play sort of pen and paper with anyone. But one of the first times I went into a bookstore and just saw some pen and paper books, the ones that drew me were World of Darkness books. Ironically, as I've said before on the podcast, the very first one I bought was not actually Vampire, but Changeling the Lost, which I thought was a great book, which I have never played. I've read it all and never got to play it with anyone. Never. Too crazy, too zany for them. Maybe one day that will change. But then as the years went on, I just got more and more interested in reading the backstory of vampires. I couldn't play it, but I enjoyed reading it online. I eventually then got that really good Humble Bundle they did ages ago, where they had all the revised set books on PDF. I bought that. I read half of them. Again, thinking, this is it, I'm finally going to get people to play. I then couldn't get anyone to play, sadly, who was interested. But finally, up to only a few years ago, I was finally involved in a Chronicles of Darkness style game. It was a homebrew game, so he was using things from everything. So werewolf, mage, and vampire. But you know what? I will defend the guy. He made it work. He made it work really well. I know sometimes it's difficult. We had a great campaign. He had mages, werewolves, vampires, changelings. It was all there. And it was a really good campaign. But because we were using the newest stuff at that time, that was Vampire Requiem, exactly, which I liked, but I always went, oh, but where's the Malkavians? Where's the Tremere? Where's all the stuff from that I kind of liked before this version? I liked it, but I wanted that setting from before, with the lore it came with. And the entire original old school vampire,
I really do appreciate the Chronicles of Darkness stuff. And, I think Vampire the Requiem is an amazing book when it comes to tonality, rule systems, the way that, the rule system is designed ground up for crossover play and so on. So that revision of the setting was brilliant. I think it was a really, really nice work of both speculative fiction and of game design. So, let's not beat around the bush. Vampire the 5th edition has drawn inspiration from all editions of Vampire, even though it is set strictly in the classic World of Darkness universe. Some of the design ideas and flavors and tonality of Requiem lives on in 5th edition. And this was it was a choice we made also. It's like not discontinue the Chronicles of Darkness line, which was then called New World of Darkness or World of Darkness, but rather just to rebrand it as Chronicles of Darkness and make sure that let these fine games continue to exist. But for the reasons of brand confusion and clarity for the consumer, let's have one World of Darkness. So that's the reasoning behind there. So I have a metric ton of Chronicles of Darkness books as well. And I think you are not alone in loving to read the books, maybe more than playing them sometimes, because a lot of them are good reads.
Yeah, I read of quite a few on PDF form, and I just love the lore, and that's why I was really excited about this 5th edition, because I was like, oh, wonderful, a new version of the game, but going back to the stuff I've already read and was familiar with, but in a new form. That's what got me excited, and that's why I'm really excited to be here today, talking with you, and getting ready to play a little.
I'm glad that those intentions shine through in the work we've done, because it seems like we have a similar thought process around these great properties.
Now I'm just sort of sitting on needles here because I want to get into it, and for our first session 0 and see where we end up with these characters that we have started to have ideas about, at least. So do you want to lead us into that, Martin?
Absolutely. So just for everyone listening to see the format of this, I'm going to assume that you're not familiar with Vampire the Masquerade or the Storyteller system when I run this, so that it can be a bit of a listen to learn at the same time, at least in extended versions where we're taking all of the mechanics and so on. What we will run here is a prelude. The prelude has a long history of Vampire the Masquerade. The traditional prelude is that you play the last night that you're a mortal being and the first night that you're a vampire. And as you play through that, you define certain traits of your character. In this case, we will play mortals in London in 2006, law enforcement professionals who are in an interview for a new job position. So the interview itself will serve as the framing device for the mechanical development of the characters. So when we say things like, oh, this is a good place to put your dots on backgrounds, or this is a good place to put your dots on strength, and so on. That is instructions for you guys to do exactly that. So I hope you have your sheets and pen and paper in front of you. That is how we will go through this. And I don't want you to define too much about the characters in your heads. You have good concepts, you have a good basic understanding of them. But for the rest, let your improvisational juices flow, because play is what happens at the table, not the best laid out plans. So,
thank you for that.
Without further ado, I would like to get into our Prelude chronicle that I tentatively titled No Man is an Island. Our ancient traditions of control and obedience, and especially of Masquerade, our greatest shield against that greatest danger facing us in centuries. A new war of human against kindred, of sheepdogs against wolves. This Second Inquisition pits our old enemies in the Vatican, the secret police and shadow warriors of a dozen countries, and hunter cells in a dozen more, against not just the Cambria, but against all of our kind. They go to war against us under the guise of their war on terror, concealing their actions from their own masters in the name of preventing panic and operational security. Already the Second Inquisition has cost us dearly, in Vienna and London, and in nameless sunlit rooms guarded by faceless seneschals. Our resources drained, our movements hampered. We must understand our enemies, blunt their attacks, and then turn their panopticon gaze towards those foolish enough to stand outside the ivory tower. The Second Inquisition is a term of art, doubtless coined by some gifted artiste who wish to empathize the danger we face while perhaps reminding us that we have seen such things before. Certainly to the Vatican, this is simply a continuation of the Holy Inquisition established to burn us out of Christendom 800 years ago. The Vatican found it needful to change that body's name to the Holy Office, then to the still more anodyne Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. But the Inquisitor's fire, banked though it may have been for a time, never went out. Similarly, these secular inquisitors keep their true purpose masked behind committee-driven titles. Currently, the Second Inquisition operates under the rubric of the Intergovernmental Task Force on Extraordinary Counter-Terrorist Response. But this name shifts with the political winds and bureaucratic tides. Thus, we refer to the SI or the Second Inquisition as such regardless of their official, or most likely unacknowledged, status. Such nomenclatural legerdemain also has the doubtless intentional effect of muddying the waters for our tools and other potential investigators. For instance, the Freedom of Information Act requests for documents concerning the Joint Working Group on Transnational Unusual Threat Assessment, but it never reveals that the JWGTUTA disbanded in 2007 its core membership, immediately reformed as the Multilateral Liaison Committee for Counter-Terror Scenario Planning. This bureaucratic shell game switches the Second Inquisition from patron to patron, its jurisdiction and budget sloshing between nations, from civilian to military to clandestine and back again. But the core remains the same throughout. 5 relentless foes hunting us through silicon and shadows, with an ever-growing pack of curs on their leashes. In 2013, after years of veiled war and positioning, we lost London to these hounds. And now we stand to lose this island fastness forever. SO13, the Newberg Group, Isaac Khan. These names will live forever in infamy among the kindred, just like those of the Episcopal, Legatine and Spanish Inquisitions, Bernardo Gui, Cardinal Marzone, and the Society of Leopold. If we are ever to reclaim the blood of Britain, we must first understand how London fell. And it's for this very purpose that I've called you here tonight. The interview happens in a sunlit room. It's the top floor of a wing of Thames House, in vicinity to the Thames and the City of London. A steel and glass scraper. London smells of river bottom, rot, medieval complexity hidden by towering banking towers and glass. The original interview was scheduled for late afternoon, but in the last minute your cell phones have gone off and there's a message from the Metropolitan Police Department that your interview has been rescheduled for early in the morning. It's 7 o'clock on a day that you had prepared to sleep in. And as you enter the building, you're in the same elevator for a few moments. Do you exchange any pleasantries? Have you met each other before?
No, I don't believe you would have.
No, I suppose not, if you say so. I'll probably go in to the elevator. I'll nod, say good morning.
I would offer a return nod, but then I wouldn't say anything. Don't know who this person is, and I don't really have any interest in knowing who they are in the short time we're going to be in an elevator.
Yeah, and it's quite obviously a formal greeting. I'm not expecting any reply, so that's fine.
There's a bit of an awkward silence in the 12 floors ride up. And it becomes apparent that you are going for the same interview. Francis enters first.
I'm a bit surprised. He looks a bit meek.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like the type, to be honest. The sunlight beams through the open steel and glass windows on the top floor of the Metropolitan Police Department headquarters building. There's not a shadow in the room, and the desk is immaculately white. The interviewer is a Sergeant Anna Kitwara. She's a small, cute lady of East African descent with an infectious smile. She puts a iPad to the side where she's been playing Farmville, waiting for you. She meets your eyes and takes out a pen and a paper for notes, looks down on a stack of printouts that seems to be a mass of forms. And you can also see your own application letters printed out there. Good morning. My apologies for the last-minute rescheduling of this interview. I hope we have not disrupted your plans for this morning significantly, and well, you have the afternoon free now to enjoy the nice weather we're having. And yes, the weather is nice. The sun has climbed above the dark bunched clouds close to the horizon and are beaming over the steel and glass and medieval mazes of London. This mad metropolitan mix of old and new, continuously smelling of the bottom of the Thames. A slight tone of rot meeting the new smell of asphalt and mixed concrete from a building yard right across. It's almost as if London is groaning as it's being built, constructed, thrown up into the sky. I'm Sergeant Anna Kitwara, and I will be conducting your interview this morning. You will be witnessed by Captain Isaac Khan, who will arrive shortly, I hope. Can I get you some tea, coffee, anything in the meantime?
I suppose a small tea would be fine. Thank you very much.
Yeah, she makes her way to a little pantry in the corner of the conference room and pours some tea from a kettle. It's freshly brewed and has the distinct sting of bergamot oil. It's a fine Earl Grey. First pick, probably. First, let me thank you for your service in the trying days just after the London bombings last year. As a part of the manhunt that followed, you were instrumental in this greatest operational challenge that the Met has ever faced, as Sir Ian Blair put it at the time. It's all of the law enforcement forces of Britain extend your thanks for this.
Not a problem, simply what I had to do.
We know a lot of people's lives went belly up during that time, and we know that you made personal sacrifices of time and commitment to perform your duties. And that has not gone unnoticed, and this exemplary service record that we are now considering your application to become a part of the National Domestic Extremism and Disorder Intelligence Unit. As you know, we are merging Specialist Operations Team SO13 into our organization to form a new operative unit with extended responsibilities. The unit will still be a part of the Metropolitan Police Service Specialist Operations Group, and the National Domestic Extremism and Disorder Intelligence Unit was created in 2004 under the Association of the Chief Police Officers in Wales and England. The purpose of this unit is to directly combat domestic extremism in society. If individuals are believed to be committing crimes or acts of terrorism motivated by extremism, then they are to be found out and arrested by this task force. Our task force is meant to provide and report intelligence about domestic extremism and public disorder issues. This unit has the purpose of reducing the crime rate across the United Kingdom by any legal means necessary, including physical takedowns and continuous surveillance. We applaud you for your very thorough application, as you have served with distinction, as I can see of a record, as coroner with specialty in virology and cause of death analysis, among other things. Do you have anything to add before we begin the... Oh, wait. There is a gentle knock on the door, and Anna gets up.
I turn my head to have a look, but otherwise am rather calm. I'm used to meetings such as this, after all.
It's the only thing that differentiates this interview from the ones earlier is the slightly more tense tone. And you have noticed that Anna continuously glances out the window down towards the street, as if she's expecting something. Maybe this is what she's expecting, because she looks significantly more relaxed as she retakes her seat, and beside her an impressive gentleman. He must be in the almost creeping up towards 6.5 foot. And that is not including the turban. He's a Sikh gentleman in an immaculate suit and an orange turban. His facial hair is a groomed moustache and a full bush of black beard. He has gentle, smiling eyes and a twinkle in them. He extends a massive hand towards you, shakes your hand, introducing himself as Captain Isaac Khan. Pleasure meeting you, sir.
I return the handshake. Maybe not as firmly. I'm not that fond of shaking people's hands, to be honest, but it needs to be done sometimes, so I do my best to smile politely. Good to meet you too, sir.
Please, don't allow me to interrupt. I will just sit here observing. I have some paperwork to catch up. He takes out a MacBook, a white MacBook, opens it, and starts typing while not letting your eyes go with his eyes. It seems he writes without even looking at the screen. This man must have filled him out his fair amount of reports late hours of the night. Anna looks at your cup. A refill before we start?
I accept a refill. I do enjoy tea. And I patiently wait for the interview to begin.
Please state your full name, gender, and date of birth. She presses record on a digital recorder on the side of the stack of papers.
Of course. Francis Ernest Ward. Aged 36, born 2nd of November 1917.
Place of birth?
North London, specifically Highgate Hospital.
What is your current position in the London Metropolitan Police?
Currently, I would still be considered fresh out of training, I suppose, but currently I am assistant coroner to the primary coroner service, and I also, dabble a little bit in various medical and criminal forensic studies.
Yes, your record shows that you have a solid medical education behind you before joining the London Met. So, sir, why, or may I call you Francis?
You can call me Francis. I'd say, although my eye has a little tick because I'm not really used to people calling me by my first name, but...
She's a social and easygoing person. She reads some of the questions from the paper. It is clear that this is not usual procedure for her. So, why do you want to be a part of the National Domestic Extremism and Disorder Intelligence Unit, Francis?
I smile and present my answer in a very practiced fashion. Quite simply, I wish to assist the people of this country. After all, it's what I originally became a doctor for, to help people. But, let's say a good old-fashioned hospital, a little uninteresting to me. I wanted to be close to the action, as it were, close to assisting people, using my knowledge to do more than just cure the mild sniffles of someone.
Captain Isakhan's eyes curiously look at you up and down as you express your willingness to serve and your inquirious mind. Anna continues. So, could you tell us a little bit about yourself as a person?
Well, I'm dedicated to my work. I believe in professionalism, timekeeping, keeping good schedule. I believe in doing what I tell people I'm going to do, being dependable, being responsible. I've always been like that when I was young. I have had struggles in life. My mother has unfortunately not been very well for much of her life. Another reason I became a doctor.
Oh, that is most commendable. A good son is loyal to his mother. So, what would you say is your greatest weakness?
Perhaps a dedication beyond reason. Perhaps sometimes I work a little too hard. I smile again, keeping all these answers very quick and polite.
It's clear that she's not quite satisfied with the answer. She winces a little bit and says, I'm looking here at your test scores. Would you say that this test accurately describes your mental and physical capabilities?
Indeed. I will admit, perhaps looking at the test results for the physical aspects of things, I'll admit perhaps I can't run as fast as the fastest runner in the world, but most of the time I feel that doesn't get too much in the way of my medical and mental skills.
Good. So, yes, this is a great place for us to place your lowest score. So, the storyteller system asks you to define your capabilities as a person between 1 and 5. It's the same scale we're used to from movie reviews and so on. So, would you please define what is your lowest stat? What is your worst attribute? This is the one where you're going to have 1 dot initially. You can buy it up later to 2, but remember that 2 dots, that is the human medium. So if you have 2 dots, you don't suck. If you have 1 dot, you really do suck. So, and you need to suck in something, at least initially. So what is your worst attribute?
I mean, I was thinking, because I don't think my physical stuff is that bad, it's just not great, but I was thinking charisma. Because I think I've already portrayed that I'm not actually very good at this whole being sociable thing. I think it comes across quite obviously when I... as it may have already in this interview. So, perhaps my charisma is 1.
Yes. That's... you do have some interpersonal problems, and it seems that you don't have a very expansive social circle either, right? Your mentions of a sick mother and so on.
No, in fact, I'm willing to say that I probably have some colleagues, but I don't really have any friends.
Oh, that is... yeah, well, a lack of friends in these kinds of circumstances can be both a blessing and a curse. So, let us define your worst attribute as charisma with 1 dot.
Yes.
Then Anna goes on to ask, so what is your greatest strength? What trait do you rely on the most in yourself?
My intelligence, of course.
Of course. So that would be your best attribute, and that means you put 4 dots on that.
Yes.
4 dots is not only great, it's quite exceptional. So thinking that, 5 is the maximum human possible. 4 is world class. So you are a highly intelligent individual. She goes on to ask you about the various other test scores that you have on your psychological and physical profile. So I would like you to distribute 3 dots into 3 attributes and 2 dots to 4 attributes. And please tell me what you choose.
So, I have my 3 dots in composure, wits, and resolve.
Mm-hmm.
I believe myself reasonably as witty as I am intelligent. Strong of resolve, not great, but strongish. And composure, of course, because I'm quite good at hiding my lack of social skills. And then finally, my 4-2, so my normals. I consider myself normal dexterity, strength, and stamina. Mainly because while I'm not the most strong physical person, I've had to train to be in the Metropolitan Police. I've had to pass basic tests, so I've managed to pass the basic stuff. And manipulation, again, I can lie as best as the normal Joe, but again, it's not something I'm practiced in.
Anna's next question veers into the personal. Could you tell me about your greatest fear?
It's easy to notice that this takes me a little time to actually think. I'm not really used to answering such a question, but I acknowledge I have to for this case, so I have a really good, hard think about it. In real life as well as out of character.
Of course. Take your time. Could it be harm befalling your mother, for instance?
I think that would be one. I don't know if he'd say that. But that definitely would be one.
Maybe that is the actual truth, but you say something else.
Well, lack of control.
I understand.
Yes, I certainly do not like to be in a situation which I don't understand and am unable to influence.
She notes down a few notes in the margins of your test papers and goes on with a smile, apparently relieved to leave this heavy question behind. So, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
If all went well, progressing high in the organization. Ideally, one day it would be nice to retire and, I don't know, cure a virus or two, maybe cure cancer. I laugh at this, and it comes across really, really, bad. Like a really awkward laugh. Why would you joke about that type of thing, kind of laugh?
Yeah, Isaac Khan, his soft gaze momentarily hardens as he looks at you. He does not laugh. Anna continues. So, what did you like the most about your prior job with the Met as assistant coroner?
The learning, the knowledge. As I said, I feel I've learnt far more working directly with crime, directly with violence, human weakness, than I would have if I'd just been a standard GP. I feel there's a lot to learn from looking at, well, some of the things people can do to each other. Teaches you how to stitch a wound up quick, that's for sure.
Nothing like work in the field to quickly bring you up to speed, is there? Anna has a wry smile as she says that. So, what skills did you learn during your last employment and your professional life as a whole? So, this is of course a great place to choose your professional skill package.
Yes.
So yes, the way that this works is that, every character in Vampire the Masquerade, even if you're creating a vampire, now we're of course creating you as a mortal person, they are influenced by events in their life, and what probably teaches us the most is our profession. It's something we spent a lot of time with, at least. So your profession gives you 2 skills at 3 dots and 2 skills at 2 dots. There's a number of sample profession packages. So, but yes, I think it's like something that like riffing off the scholar archetype.
So, well, I think we would definitely have academics at 3.
Mm-hmm.
Medicine at 3.
Yes. When we talk about the distinction between academics and science, academics is the humanist sciences. So that is, you would be sociology, it would be history, and so on. So I rather think it's science. Yeah.
It's science. No, you're right, it's science. No, I briefly didn't see that one. Yeah, no, science would be much better. Science and medicine would be my 3s. Now, what would be the 2s? Let's say, actually, a bit of investigation because of the police stuff.
Great. Absolutely.
What do you think of technology? Because I think even in 2006, I would have to be quite familiar with some advanced stuff to do my job. So yes, let's say 2 in technology as well.
Yeah, I think that already in 2006 there were a lot of information sharing online and so on, especially in the medical field. So that is certainly possible. What I would like you to do, apart from this, because that finishes it out, is that I would like you to specify a specialty in science. So what is what is it? Biology? Is it virology? Is it,
if it's biology, it's a little bit. It would encompass. I would obviously, because virology is part of biology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The let's say that this. The narrower you make it, the bigger the impact of the specialization is going to be. The narrower you make it.
There you go. Yes. Yes, my speciality has been viruses. I obviously know all the basic doctor and medicine stuff, but because my interest has been viruses, and it's one of the reasons I was actually initially brought in, because of my interests in biological warfare and sensing it and seeing if it's being used.
Yeah, and after the anthrax scares hitting Washington in earlier years, the virology and medicine has become a sought-after skill, even among the shadowy agencies of the various alphabet soups of the world. So that makes a lot of sense. The next question is one of biography. She asks you, what is your greatest triumph in life, would you say? And what did you learn from it?
I suppose getting into Oxford and getting all my qualifications at almost the top level. I've worked very hard to achieve that. It wasn't luck or too much influence. My eye twitches again a little when I say that. But yes, getting through where I've got to today, through hard work and dedication, no matter the costs.
And conversely, what do you consider to be your greatest failure, and what did you learn from that?
Again, I hesitate for a while. I don't seem very comfortable with talking about failures and fears, but I do try and answer. Perhaps... maybe when I was younger, I considered myself... maybe I thought I should be even higher than I am now. Maybe I thought I would have already won a Nobel Peace Prize. I admit perhaps I was youthful naivety.
So you failed your own youthful expectations, your grandiose expectations upon yourself. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, I suppose, but you know, that's life. We all think things as children that we don't accomplish. We don't understand how the world works yet, after all.
Yeah, we all believe things as children that we don't want to believe as adults. Could you tell me about any other events in life that have taught you valuable skills and describe them to me? So this is the place where you choose life event skills. So these are major events that have happened in your life that have taught you things. Specifically, you have one event that taught you a skill at 3 dots and another event that taught you a skill at 2 dots. So what were these events and what did you learn?
Well, perhaps academics could come in here because that could reflect the lifetime of while I was focusing on my doctor stuff. I tried to read as much as possible on all things. I like to try and be an expert, so my whole youth, especially that sort of lifestyle, would be very strong in the academic field.
This would be your sheltered lifestyle, or
Yes.
If one would be a bit mean, a basement dweller or a mommy's boy living in mommy's cellar reading books.
Exactly, or in my case, a very nice drawing room because I believe my family were quite wealthy. After all, I went to Oxford. Even with just a single mother, that wasn't always the case. My father was a very wealthy man before he passed away. So yes, a life of academic study, even from a young age.
Great, so that's a 3 dot in academics then?
Yes.
Do you have a specialty for that? Is it like history of science, or is it plain history, or...?
You know what? History. That's actually one of my few hobbies. I actually am interested in historical information. Doesn't come up too much in my work, but it's something I enjoy. History. And then the other life event was 2, did you say?
Mm-hmm.
Right. What do we think? Let's think. Could I... etiquette, maybe?
Yes, absolutely. Also, you shouldn't be afraid of grabbing action skills, if that is something that might come into play. So don't be afraid of things like, I was mugged and learned taekwondo, or things like that. We are, after all, playing police officers, so it's perfectly acceptable for you to have any kind of those skills. There will be a couple of more chances for you to nail those skills also.
I could also go for insight. Because not being a guy who had friends, being a lone hard worker, I've done a lot of people watching. I do watch, I pay attention. So let's have 2 in insight.
Yeah. It's the insight of the bullied, the outsider looking in to the playground.
Yes.
Seeing the dynamics of the fully functional kids in there. That is great. Anna looks at you as you describe your ability to perceive motive and so on, and she smiles with something that appears like compassion. So, what do you do in your free time?
I like to read.
Mm-hmm.
Or, well, a good crossword puzzle, game of chess. Again, I sort of give an awkward laugh off. I'm quite aware that Mr. Khan doesn't seem very impressed, or at least that's the impression I'm getting from him.
Your mention of chess and your observational skills, whereas you would have believed that this is something that the quite forceful and massive masculine presence of Khan would not approve of. It seems the opposite. He leans forward slightly as you talk about your nerdy interests. So please choose 3 leisure skills at 1 dot each, based on your hobbies. And also remember that you can have leisures that you choose not to share in this interview, and skills connected to those.
Right, okay, so maybe 1 in subterfuge, because I'm used to in chess.
Yeah.
It's, I know how to do a basic bluff. It's not the best, but there's 1 there.
Mm-hmm.
1 in leadership.
Great.
If I'm good at that sort of thing, I know how to tell other people what to do about it. At least, well, again, 1 dot here, just 1 dot.
This should be connected to some of your leisure skills. Have you perhaps been like were you maybe like team captain of a chess team at Oxford or something like that?
You know what? Yes. Yes, I was. That's a great thing. One of the few times I actually acknowledged other people was when they were doing things I enjoyed. And even then, I had to be telling them what to do.
Yes, you are such a charming individual.
And maybe 1 in awareness. Again, just because I'm quite a visual individual, quite aware of things. Especially in chess and reading, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awareness. So, any other skills or capabilities we should be aware of?
Well, I know how to drive an ambulance. Standard training procedure.
Oh, you have been working as an EM then in...
Initially, not so much the last years, but obviously in the initial training, it's kind of expected of everyone. At least a basic knowledge. Oh, so I have to drive to work, so you know.
Of course. So, please give me an outline of the capabilities we haven't covered here. So, what to do now is to round out the skill selection. People pick up skills from the most weird places in life, and this covers all of the earlier categories plus whatever reasons you can have to know other stuff as well. And you pick 1 of these 2 options. You can be a specialist, and then you can take 1 skill at 4 dots. That is it. A specialist will have 4 dots in 1 skill, full stop. And if you like, you can change your professional specialty to a specialty of that skill.
So basically I can have 1 at 4, so because I'm a specialist.
And you could, for instance, exchange medicine for the 4-dotter and move the 3-dotter somewhere else.
You know what, let's do that. Let's have medicine at 4, that's my specialty, and maybe then let's have drive at 3.
Great.
Because not only do I know basic driving, but I had to be trained in ambulance stuff, and, to drive an ambulance, you have to know a few things about driving through red lights and stuff.
Anna looks at you and is like, yeah, I had a boyfriend once who drove an ambulance. He took me to work in 6 minutes flat. We live in Kensington.
I give the most non-committal sort of grunt to this, basically indicating I don't actually care, but I'm trying to be polite, like,
So that is your specialist approach to life. Very nice. So, could you describe your personal contact network? Do you have any personal or professional contacts that may aid or impair your service to special operations?
Well, naturally, I feel I have a very good relationship with my, the primary coroner, of course, at the Metropolitan currently.
Yes. So what we are doing now is that we are approaching something that I know that Karim thinks is one of the most important parts of Empire, and to him it's like, this is how you solve adventures, which is backgrounds. Specifically in this case, allies, contacts, mentors, etc.
Yes, this part of the third, yeah. Let me have a look at the old rulebook. I do have it, so I'm pretty sure it's approached with 7 dots worth of advantages and disadvantages, yeah? Oh no, sorry, 7 advantages, 2 in flaws.
Yes, but to not get these super min-maxed characters that you can get if you allow a 0 rating. I remember some GURPS characters that were quite extreme. So yes, we have chosen to go down the path of having more benefits than drawbacks, but the drawbacks are quite telling. So you can choose between allies and contacts. influence, and those are the basic ones as a mortal.
I was first of all thinking I have resources.
Yes,
am well paid and come from a wealthy family, so I definitely have some dots in that.
Yeah.
And then let's say that for me, because obviously I'm not... we're ignoring all the vampiric ones, listeners, because obviously I'm not a vampire yet. So let's ignore those. So then it would be... I think I'm more a contacts person than an allies person.
Yeah, it seems so from everything we have seen so far. So resources, would you say then is like you're rich?
Yes.
Good, that's a 3-dot resource then.
Yes, let's do that. 3 dots of resources.
Since you do still live with your mother in her...
Yes.
Taking care of her in her infirm stage. So yeah, you do have like a great condo, nice house, tons of luxury items and so on that you have access to through the family.
I do indeed. And at this stage, my mother's infirmity, she's still with it. She is mainly, it's a wasting disease, so she's wheelchair bound. But at this stage in her life, at this time period, she's still, I can't find the word for it.
Her dementia hasn't progressed very far, if it's like an Alzheimer's condition or whatever.
Exactly, yes, that's right. So that's 3, so that gives me 4 more things. So let's have... You know what, actually, I'd say the head of the coroner, head coroner for the current Metropolitan Police would probably be a level 3 contact.
So it's somebody who is like works for the lead coroner's office in London.
I mean, you can give him the name if you want.
Yeah, go for a name.
Dr. Isaac Kent. He'd probably be he'd be a gentleman in his 50s, 60s, I imagine. And yes, I work for him currently, and I believe myself to be the kind of individual I could talk to him. He would give his professional opinion on things.
But that will surely make information transference between your old unit and ours considerably easier. So that's a great help. Francis, that is very good to hear, that you have a good relationship to your old boss. And there's going to be nothing in your services here to threaten that relationship.
Wonderful.
So, and that gives you... Yeah, that rounds out.
That gives me 6.
That's 6, that's 1.
That gives me... just 1 dot, but I mean, maybe that could be saved, or maybe you could suggest something for 1 dot.
I mean, there is... it's not unlikely that you have a tiny bit of influence. Is a possibility.
You know what? Actually, that makes sense. Just 1, because I basically the influence that a high-ranking doctor would have.
That's basically like influence. You're an MD, meaning that people trust you like an MD and give you the access that they do to this.
I like that. Let's do that. Influence as a doctor. Influence doctor 1. There you go. Done. And then now it's floors. Ooh.
Yes, and Anna looks at you and says like, yeah, this is all good and fine, and of course we do have access to your records. If we make a full and thorough investigation of you, is there anything we might stumble across? Any history of drug use, any prior incidents to your connection to the Met? You are of course in an interview and you are obliged to answer truthfully.
Of course. Well, the answer is no. I have never partaken of any personal drug use. I do not have a criminal record, obviously all checkable. Perhaps, I pause for a moment, perhaps there are 1 or 2 individuals I've had disagreements with, but that's common in my line of work. Some people are jealous of those more successful than them.
So what I hear is that you have an enemy of some
Yes.
kind. Good. So who is this enemy?
I feel it would be someone from the school day of side things.
Ah, the old bully who has risen in the world, perhaps.
Yes.
Cool. So, how we handle this is that they are just taking us flaws on the same power scale. So that means, yeah, this is a person with some pull. It's a tight knit group. It could be like some neighborhood kids. It could be a church group. It could be an NGO chapter. So what is it in this case?
I believe it would be a rival of mine, not from Oxford, but then also from all the 10 years of training and everything. It would be an individual who actually went into the proper medical field, so he's an actual, like a doctor in like a proper hospital, and has always thought that I'm out of touch. I, lack the human element required to actually be a good doctor and that sort of thing. So a real nice humanist doctor type of individual who then actually has gone on to become quite influential himself, and he definitely would have people dislike me or not want to work with me.
Yeah, this could this possibly be there's someone at Highgate Hospital or something like that?
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah, so it's in your neighborhood, meaning that you have a chance to run into this individual from time to time.
Yes, it turns out that the fact that he went to work at that hospital. Oh, how bloody typical.
Yes, bloody typical. Who is this kind and nice MD?
They are Dr. Morgan Tyler. There we go.
Morgan Tyler.
Yes. And because he's level 2, let's say it's not just him, it's also anyone who works under him, which is quite a few people and staff, have all been told, like, oh, that doctor is he's a bit of a dick.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is good. Do you tell Anna about this person and your suspicion that they might not have your best interests in mind?
I do not.
Good.
I don't consider it important. I simply, what I do say is like, yes, I haven't always agreed with some of my fellow colleagues during my working period, but let's just say that I've always felt it's more important to achieve results that get along with your co-workers.
She smiles a bit. Yeah, don't I know it? There was this girl. We used to go out for after work beers. She just couldn't take it that I wore dresses better than her, and also I was always better at golf than her, and she just couldn't take it. I know that she's talking behind my back, right? Isaac Khan looks at her and she cuts off her nervous rambling and continues the interview. So, what motivates you? What's your greatest ambition?
Knowledge, I'd say. I would love to learn more. I always think we can learn more, and I strive to be the best at what I do.
So could you be a bit more precise? Is there a specific mark of distinction, a specific academic achievement, or a career achievement?
I would like to make a breakthrough discovery in curing one of mankind's greatest current uncurable ailments.
That is indeed an epic ambition. Because yes, this is also a game trait. This is what sets your long-term goal for the character. And I do think we can probably guess what kind of ailments will come your way to challenge you. And they are indeed some of the oldest ailments that have plagued mankind.
So I will write that down as my ambition is cure something uncurable.
Yes, that it is. And it is something that is within the world of darkness. That is an achievable ambition. It is huge, it's chronicle spanning, and that is good because you will be able to set desires temporarily. But as you work towards your ambition, this will regain willpower, allowing you to regain a resource that is very important in order to get re-rolls and so on in this game. So that is how it works. Anna seems satisfied and continues to ask Francis, what do you believe in principle-wise? Why do you want to serve the crown in special operations? What's your value ground? What are the most important things you believe that you should always do or never do?
Well, and I know that this goes into, of course, my convictions.
Yes, it does.
So, I would say, well, first of all, I believe that you should never betray family. Whatever that family is, you should strive not to betray those who you trust. After all, family is more important than many things.
That's very sweet of you. You really do like your mother, don't you?
I don't answer that. I just sort of give a non-committal nod.
And then 2 more convictions.
I also believe that you should never compromise your goals in life. If you can achieve something, you must try and achieve it. You can't let anything get in the way, especially if it's achievable.
So when you have set something in sight, you go for it, no matter the cost. Isak Khan turns a little bit and he looks at you intently. He gestures a little bit. He has not said a single word yet. Just gestures a little bit with your fingers to like, give me more. Give me something more.
Yes, so never betray family, never give up on your ambitions, and what could be a good third one? Out of character thinking time.
The list of convictions in the book is fairly good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with just grabbing one of those.
That's true, actually. Yeah, let's have a look at those. I have looked at them before, but it's that classic thing that suddenly when you have to do it, you suddenly forget everything you've read. Like,
I mean, there's also, these, just to give a little bit of background how these are used mechanically, these are in these moral horror games that we are running, the breaking certain tenets, like killing an innocent or partaking of, enhanced interrogation and so on, are things that erode your sense of self. It erodes your humanity. These convictions allow you an excuse to perform those things without being psychologically damaged or damaging your humanity. So in the service of your family, you could conceivably kill. Or in the service of your
ambitions.
Yeah, yes. Your ambition, meaning, curing incurable disease, you can get away with more than a normal person could. It doesn't excuse, gross violations.
Of course. Oh yeah, no, it's the little thing that just makes it slightly light so you don't immediately lose all your morality. How about never be afraid to learn?
That is an open-ended and nice one.
I do not let squeamishness or moral quandaries stop me learning what I need to learn.
Good, great. It's sort of the antithesis of the don't gaze into the abyss. Sort of do gaze into the abyss. Yes. That's nice. Khan, who has been silent so far, is about to say something when Anna asks one of the final questions. You might get back to it later. Who are the 3 people closest to you in life right now? Who's your next of kin? She already starts writing down your mother's name.
Yes, correct. That would be 1. And then, oh no, we need to have 2 more people.
You do not have to. You can choose 1, 2, 3.
How about then we have... So let's have the mother. Let's have 1 more. So it shouldn't really be Dr. Morgan. Maybe I do actually have 1 colleague. 1 person who actually likes me.
Yeah.
Should we do that?
Yes, we can do that. What do you want the nature of this work relationship to be? Is it a secret office crush? Is it just someone who you get along with really well, or...
It's someone who thinks similar to me. There you go. It's someone who actually is a similar sort of doctor. Maybe they aren't. Maybe they're a more academic doctor, actually, I think. But we had got along. We had similar goals in life. I was actually able to confide in them a little during my training years. Yes. Hjalmar, give me a good name.
Conrad.
Conrad?
Conrad. Dr. Conrad Milton. There we go. Conrad. Dr. Conrad. Yes. I would say, well, my next of kin, unfortunately, is only my dear mother, Agnes Ward. Unfortunately, my father died when I was young, and our family is rather estranged from, well, my mother's side anyway. So it's really just us.
I see. Do you have a phone number and address for your mother?
I certainly do, and I would give it. And while I wouldn't say it, it would probably be in the application that my voucher, if you will, like, the sort of like one friend or family member to vouch for you other than your mother, would be this Dr. Conrad Milton, who is a medical doctor at a university. London Metropolitan.
Oh, that's nice. She seems almost relieved. You do have friends, or at least one. That's so good. It's good to have someone to confide in. The working gets stressful. The final part of the application process is a bit different. I would like you to quickly answer a few questions, and then we have some word associations. Do you have a history of drug use, or have had any problems with alcohol consumption?
No.
You see that Khan looks intently at you. He would probably spot if you were lying.
I definitely am not lying on this case. I have never partaken of drugs, and other than occasional glasses of wine, I believe in temperance, to be honest.
So, any medical conditions we should be aware of?
I was going to say I have slightly not a good vision, but maybe then I wouldn't be able to pass all those tests.
Yeah, I mean, you can have contacts and, contact lenses, and glasses, so...
Yes, you can have glasses, can't you? Yes. Well, yes, my vision isn't perfect, but I tap my glasses. It's not the worst.
Are you otherwise in good health? No iron deficiencies? No contactable diseases?
None. I would know.
You would, wouldn't you? She seems slightly embarrassed about the next question. So, your sexual orientation?
I give a little huff and I go, I suppose I would be straight. But the truth that I don't say is that I've kind of always not really, maybe from lack of confidence, never really been in any sort of relationship. But it hasn't really bothered me. I've decided that there's more important things into life than physical intimacy.
Yeah, this is, you would, in 2018, you would define yourself as asexual, perhaps. She goes on to the next slip of paper, which seems to be hastily noted down on paper. Tell me what you think when I say these words. Please try to respond quickly and express yourself in a single word. Gun.
Violence.
Needle.
Precision.
Collateral.
Damage.
Extremism.
Erroneous.
Hackney.
Cockney.
Blood.
Famine.
Termite.
Infestation.
Sanctuary.
Church.
Kindred.
Blessing.
Khan looks at you and opens his mouth and asks this one question. Sir, do you believe in God?
No. And as I say that, it's reasonably true enough, but again, I do not mention that I was raised as a Catholic.
He looks at you and exhales slowly. Welcome. You may come in on Monday. He gets up. Anna smiles. A minute later, you're alone in the room. Left there is a scrap of paper. Gun, needle, collateral, extremism, hackney, blood, thermite, sanctuary, kindred.
You have listened to an episode of Red Moon Roleplaying, where we play the chronicle No Man is an Island for Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. Our storyteller was Martin Ericsson, and we were also joined by Anna-Karin Linder. The music was created by Lola Zaza for the game Vampire Prelude, We Eat Blood and All Our Friends Are Dead, and was used with permission from White Wolf. The sound effects are from the fine folks at freesound.org. Finally, a big thank you to our patrons. This podcast would not be possible without your generous support on Patreon. You give us so much energy, help us cover our costs, and open up time to record and edit.
From the bottom of our hearts, thank you. And remember, death is not the end.